stronger.
Hi, my name is Chris Lucassen. I'm an Agile coach at Zebia, and today I'd like to talk to you about a process from idea to happy user that you can use if your organization has not fully adopted Agile. Sure, there are a lot of examples on how to achieve this in a fully Agile context, but what if your company or enterprise is still predominantly process-oriented and you have a strong emphasis on control? How can you adopt certain Agile principles to speed up the process and at the same time adhere to the rules at hand? It all starts with an idea. It always does. And the idea ideally should generate happy users. Happy users are engaged users. Engaged users are those who pay our bills. Well, ideas generate in the business. And to put an emphasis on that, I will call this person the business product owner. Sure, according to Scrum, product owners always reside within the business. But in practice, you can find them everywhere. But how to create an actual product? This typically takes time and is a long and winding road full of potholes down the road of IT and engineering. How can you find your way? To help this person, we've introduced a new role which is called the Customer Journey Expert. It's not a product owner, it's not an IT guy, it's not a business analyst, nor is he a designer, but he's a bit of everything. He knows the product owner, he knows the problem, and he knows his way around in the engineering department. He knows how to get things done, and he knows what matters to users. Since we are still using a governance process, you will probably need something like a mandate. A mandate can be a single sheet of paper, but basically explains what is it that you are trying to achieve. And we're matching it against the company's goals. Is it spot on, or is it sort of out there in the same direction? If your mandate is approved, you move a little down the road and you come to the first bus stop. This is where the architect, design and security people get on the bus. It's important to get the right people on the bus. Getting them on board too late will lead to serious rework. Use these people to discuss what the specific properties of your product and idea are. In a more agile environment, you will probably use team members, but if your organization has a strong emphasis on governance, these are probably separate roles. Next up is the project initiation document. It's typically a very big binder with a lot of nonsense in there, but one of the chapters that is really important are the KPIs. These are the metrics that you will use to prove later on that your product has been successful. It's really important to put them down in writing before you actually start doing so. Now we get to the first Agile element that we can introduce. We strongly believe that the story map should be the central part in every project initiation document. A story map is a two-dimensional map of all functionality in your product. On the horizontal axis, all the steps or activities that your user will encounter whilst traversing or using your project. And on the vertical axis, we have an increasing level of luxury. So on the top layer, you will probably find all the basic stuff that you need to solve your problems, whereas down at the lower levels you will have complexity but also convenience. Notice that not all lanes have the same amount of blocks. The most important thing in a story map are the releases. Rather than slicing milestones of a project by time progression, as typical Prince2 projects do, we slice up the project by shippable product increments. And that's really nice, because when we run out of money, we still have something to ship. Each release should be potentially shippable. Story maps are really high level. There's no need to dive into the ocean of details yet. Think of your chunks as extra large, really large parts of the puzzle. You can use these parts to compare your project to other projects that are out there and you've done in the past. Some may be big, some may be small. For the moment, we are just concerned with how much impact they had to the end user, or how much happiness they generated. If your project looks a lot like Project B, then it will probably generate as much revenue as Project B did. So now we know the impact. Let's move on to how much time it will cost to actually build this project. To discover how much time it will take to actually build a project, we go to the development factory. This is the place where software is created and products are being shipped out to our users. These guys do a lot of things. They solve bugs in existing projects, but they also work on completely new projects. Having the teams assess your project and figure out if the complexity of the project is similar to project A, B and C will give you a very nice estimation on how much time it will take to complete it. Is this all very accurate, you may think? No, it's not. But neither are the big and detailed reports that you would do in a traditional environment. It is good enough. At least good enough to assess if the other projects that the teams are working on are more important than your project. Now, if you are not in a fully value-driven organization, you will probably have some kind of barrier along the way, typically in the form of a project delivery board. This is where you defend your project and explain why it is so beneficial to the end user. Hey, remember that we got all this data which compared your project to other projects? This should be really helpful here. Another thing that you need to keep in mind is the roadmap. Companies often have a strategic roadmap or objectives that they want to achieve. If your project aligns with the roadmap, you have a far better chance of passing this barrier. Be careful, project delivery boards typically act like a dam, which will stop a flood of new ideas and slow down your organization. Alright, congratulations, you passed the project delivery board. It's time to move on to the team backlog. Scrum and Agile often talk about a product backlog, but it's a confusing term. Teams typically work on multiple projects, so it makes no sense to talk about a single product here. The team backlog has several granularity levels of details. Low priority, the further down the backlog, are probably still the extra large chunks that we had in the project initiation documents. But as priority increases and we move closer to the team, the story should be really detailed. You can also see the involvement of the team rising the closer we get to the point where the team actually has to do the work. In the beginning, it will probably be the customer journey expert and the business product owner that work together and build the first stories. But refining and making the stories smaller is something where the team really needs to be part of. The cross-functional team, development and testers all sitting together. It doesn't really matter who you have in the team as long as everybody is there that you need to get a product in the hand of a customer. The more dependencies, the less likely you are that the feedback loop will be very fast. Oh, there's another person that we didn't talk about yet, which is the Scrum Master. Now, the Scrum Master is not a project manager. The Scrum Master is there to facilitate the team and make sure that they do what they do best, which is building and testing software. So they take away all the impediments. They can also help the product owner and the customer journey expert in making user stories. User stories are a form of specification which looks something like RSA, ... I would like, so that, ... Using this format incentivizes talking to each other, and that is really important. User stories are on the granularity level that both the team and the business owner understands what needs to happen and what benefit will be achieved by that. All in all, it's a communication story. Alright, you have the stories, you talk to the teams, they've assessed them, so how much can they do? For this we need an additional variable. This is called the team velocity. It sounds really complex. All it means is how much stuff the team can output in a given amount of time. Once we have that data, we can do a slice planning. Remember the slices from the story map? What if I would make a chart with on the vertical axis all the teams that are working in our business? On the horizontal axis I will put a unit of time. Some people put weeks, some people put sprints, it doesn't really matter, as long as you're consistent. Looking at the teams, we see that Team A is working on the red project, and actually Team B is helping them out. Then Team A will continue on the green project, and Team B will do something else. Blue is doing something entirely different, and Team D is mostly on itself, doing small, incremental work. That's all great. But the nice thing about the planning wall is that you can also very visually indicate when you will release stuff. And that is important. In an agile environment, you probably release as often as you can, preferably multiple times per sprint. But in most organizations, it will take time to implement that kind of infrastructure and that way of working. So for now, let's say we don't release that much and that often. But we want to release to make impact. So we are talking about impactful releases. Impacts that really take the market. But how do we know which project we should prioritize over the other one? Well, remember that all the business people sat together and they made a list, stating which project is more important than the other one. You can use that as a starting point. In a non-agile environment, you will probably also find something like a project management office. They typically handle all the resourcing. In a not-so-agile environment, you will see them using hours and manpower. In a more agile environment, they will talk about value. Either way, you can use that to augment your planning. Value is actually a lot better. Let's say this is your average project curve. In the beginning, the project is not really delivering that much. It's basically infrastructure and stuff. Then there's a period in which they deliver value, and there's a period in which they can add as much complexity to the project as they like, but it's really not going to make users any more happy. This is a great cutoff point. So how do we determine which project has reached a state of completeness and which one is still in a phase of adding a lot of value? There's not a golden rule for that, but it makes sense to put all the business product owners together and have them prioritize the lanes accordingly. If product owners sit together and learn from each other why their different projects are adding value, they are better aligned and can easily set priorities. See it as an augmentation of the product delivery board in the PMO office. This is where the real thing happens. Alright, you have it prioritized, you know what to build, you know in which sequence you need to build it. It's time for refinement. Refinement is where the product owner, the Scrum Master, the team and the customer journey expert meet to discuss the user stories in greater detail. The team now knows exactly what to build. And if they don't, they need to bring in a specialist. This sometimes happens if you have some proprietary software in your stack somewhere, which the team simply doesn't know about. Alright, the team can begin building. We do this in a Scrum Cycle, which is called a sprint. Basically it means we will work for 2 weeks on a certain problem, and regardless of the technology, whether it's C#, Angular, maybe it's SharePoint, Java or SAP even. Every 2 weeks we will strive to deliver a present. We will do this early and we will do this often. And every shipment should be potentially releasable. If you want to look inside the 2-week box to know what they are doing, you look at the Scrum Board. The Scrum Board will show them what they have planning to do for the coming 2 weeks, what they are doing and what is already completed. Every 2 weeks the Scrum team outputs a potential shippable release. And this way we get a kind of a pipeline, all going down to the user. Now in traditional organizations there is some point in time where we will do user acceptance testing. In an Agile environment that is a very bad idea. Because imagine that we are waiting 4 times 2 weeks, 8 weeks to get feedback. What if we made a mistake? We have to go back and redo everything. So the deeper the user involvement, the better. In fact, we want the project to launch as quickly as possible. Remember what we started with? Ideas are like bright stars, and you should always aim for the stars. Oh, I forgot something. The product owner is about the why. He has a vision on how to make the user a happy user. He also controls the what. What type of functionality is required to make the user happy? Though, granted, the customer journey expert is a great help there. What the team is in control of is how the product should be built. It's just the way it works. They are the experts. Alright, now we have periodic releases to the end user. That is great. This way we can get fast feedback. Sometimes we can just ask the user and say, hey, what do you think about this release? If the product is used by a lot of users, you want to fall back on things like big data analysis and just look at the data. Even if you're using big data, it doesn't hurt to talk to a user every now and then. They're not all that dangerous. Feedback on your product is great, but you can also get feedback on your shippable increments. Did we really prioritize stuff in the right way? And ultimately, you want to have feedback on your product goals. Did we really achieve and match the strategy goals that we set in the beginning? You can now understand why early feedback is more important than a fully functional product. Wait a minute, you were talking about a Prince2 organization. But what about a project manager? Where did he go? Well, he is still here. In a typical Prince2 organization, you still have a lot of reporting going on. And failure to do so will not contribute to a lot of trust. And until we have transferred all this need of reporting into different formats, it is best to just satisfy the existing ways. The second theme, where project managers are very effective, is communication. They know the lay of the land, they know what information needs to go where. So why not use them for this? They're excellent communicators. A third thing is budgeting. Agile methodologies focus on delivering value rather than following budget. However, the financial controllers of your enterprise may disagree on what is more important. Keep them satisfied by having the project manager monitoring how much money is spent on a project. This was in a nutshell how you can go from idea to a happy user by applying Agile methodologies within a Prince2 framework. I hope you like it, and if you have any more questions, please just drop them at the blog www.xebia.com/blog. Hope to see you soon.